9. The Early Middle Ages. The information panel will provide us with what is known of the site during the period of the Early Middle Ages. The original local ecclesia. Archaeological excavations inside and outside the church have verified the remarkable survival of the remains of a church complex, dating from between the mid-7th and 9th centuries, in which the first church can be seen built above the Lombard sites upon the remains of the Roman villa, using part of the latter's walls. It has been possible to reconstruct almost the whole layout of the original church, which consisted of only a single room with an apse, flanked on the north and south side by lateral annexes for funerary use, and preceded by a large building extending to the west. This system is reflected in other late antique and early medieval churches recently excavated in the Brescia area, such as Santa Maria di Pontenuove di Bedizzole, 5th century, San Pietro in Mavinas di Siamoni, 5th or 6th century. The Western Building. The first phase of the building consisted of a single large room, built on the facade which was accessed by a nave through a centrally positioned door. So far, only the extreme southern part has been investigated. Its use for funerary purposes from its beginning is attested to by some well-made graves. Later, the room was divided into 3 compartments. The central of these much wider than the sides, which were accessed by 2 doors that opened in the middle of the divisions. This layout may reflect a functional difference of the rooms. Funerary chapels along the sides, the baptistery in the center. The apse and the presbytery. More complex, and in many ways somewhat tricky to interpret, is the sequence which has emerged from the excavation of the eastern part of the church, where at least 3 distinct structural phases of the medieval apse presbytery have been discovered. Phase 1. The step has been identified that separated the space of the apse from that of the presbytery in the original building. Sheltered by the semicircular apse and connected to the cocchiopesto floor are the benches for the presbyters, syntronos, made of brick and originally covered with panels or boards. Upon this, exactly in the center and perfectly preserved, sits a single tapering plastered masonry structure, about 80 centimeters high. On its summit, a bowl or a stone basin in the form of a shell was placed for the ablutions of the priest, with a hole running into the ground for drainage. This is the lavacrum, that is, a sort of small sink connected to an underground cistern, usually set into the walls of the apse, built next to the altar or placed in the sacristy. This was required by canon law at least since the 6th century and made compulsory in the German Synod of Würzburg in 1298. A grave was also situated precisely between the sanctuary and the high altar. The privileged position of the tomb suggests that it was a confessio attached to the altar, containing the body of a venerable person who was connected with the foundation of the church. Phase 2. Immediately to the west of the apse step, in the area of the presbytery, a structure was installed at a later time, of which only the trace of an irregular rectangular remains. Perhaps it was a new altar, moved to the west of the first, a reliquary, or a platform placed in front of the earlier altar. Phase 3. The last change made to this area, before reconstruction in the Romanesque era, is represented by the complete demolition of the structure built in Phase 2, and the lifting of the presbytery floor, which was raised even to that of the apse's earlier cocchiopesto floor.